What is good, everyone? My name is OJ and welcome to my village of PlayerEssence, where all of you PE ninjas can come get your latest Nintendo Switch and gaming news. And today we've got some great information for you guys. So Nintendo hasn't really officially came out and stated what the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild amiibo will do for you in the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild when you scan it in with your Joy-Con controllers or your Nintendo Switch Pro controller, but it seems like we finally have a little advert that tells us exactly what these amiibo are going to do. Now, according to the back of the packaging for the Archer Link and Rider Link amiibo, scanning in the respective figurines will unlock rare weapons for Link to use on his adventures. If the images are legitimate, then they indicate that the Archer Link will give you rare bows and the Rider Link gives treasure for riding horses such as saddles and larger swords. This would actually be pretty cool and kind of fall in line with what I would think the Legend of Zelda amiibo would do. I actually have some of those amiibo pre-ordered myself. I think I have Princess Zelda and I have Link. Either way, pretty cool. I like getting this type of stuff with amiibo. It's a nice little extra because I think people would have bought amiibo even if they didn't do anything, but the fact that they actually give you stuff in addition to just being a little cool figurine that you can collect as a fan, I think that's awesome, and definitely Nintendo needs to start off more games with amiibo. One of the bigger things that people said that amiibo wasn't really doing was having enough functionality in games. Even though there's quite a bit, some people still felt that it wasn't enough. So the fact that Nintendo's marquee title at the launch of the Nintendo Switch already supports amiibo, and it looks like it's going to be pretty good amiibo support, then that's definitely a good thing going forward for amiibo. Although I would like to see a few more games support amiibo. I'm not sure if 1-2 Switch does at this point. I don't know if Super Bomberman does at this point. I would have liked to see maybe a Super Bomberman amiibo as well. So I was kind of hoping that another game or two at launch also supported it, but we still need to wait and see. Functionality can be patched into games, so we could get some of that later down the line for games like Super Bomberman R, and of course games like Splatoon, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe will make use of amiibo in the future. Alright guys, and moving on to the next bit of Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild news. I talked about this in a previous video, and it seems like it's at it. It's still there, and that is the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild still being unavailable, the standard edition on Amazon.com. Usually there's always a ton of games in abundance, especially for a massive retailer such as Amazon. They get tons of stock because they are bigger than like Best Buy, Target, like the Walmart electronics section, and many other places combined. Amazon is. So they get a ton of stock and they ship out a lot, and the fact that it's still currently unavailable or sold out as far as pre-orders go, so that there's a massive influx of people that have pre-ordered this game, more than anything that I've maybe even seen before. I've seen slight delays like currently unavailables. I know like Final Fantasy 15 on the PS4, I think the standard edition was currently unavailable for like a couple hours, but then they restocked it. And with this is just insane that it's been for this long. It's been like going on 2 days now that it's currently unavailable. And the Wii U version has actually jumped up a little bit because the Nintendo Switch version on Amazon isn't freaking available. So I do feel that there's double dippers, but the fact that it's just unavailable just shows that there is so much hype for this game. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild to me is just the quintessential launch game of the freaking generation. But this game just speaks to so many different people, so many different Nintendo fans that loved Zelda games. If you love the openness of Wind Waker, you love the original freedom of The Legend of Zelda, if you liked all that, this is like the perfect blend of those two. Even with the art style and the type of gameplay that you're having, you can go anywhere, you can tackle things in the way that you want to. It really is a blend of Wind Waker and of the original Legend of Zelda, two of Nintendo's most iconic Zelda games, of course, for what they did, when they did it, and how consumers reacted to what they did. And I think that's what they're kind of looking at too. If you look at some of the stuff that they did, like Skyward Sword, and if you look at Twilight Princess, there are elements, of course, here and there. It's a Zelda game, but really those games are kind of out, and it's really Wind Waker type-ish aesthetics. Not complete cell shading, obviously it's more close to Skyward Sword than anything, but just the openness of what you can do in Wind Waker, and then of course the freedom as far as tackling stuff in kind of your order and kind of going through the way that you want to with The Legend of Zelda, the original one, without having to deal with like Skybirds or Sea that's in The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, but just the openness of the original game. So that's why I think it's propelling this to just sell amazing amounts. And there's definitely more news on that when it comes to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild Nintendo Switch sales, because I actually had a story the other day, one of my last videos, where we talked about Nintendo France as far as what the manager there had to say about the really impressive Wii levels of hype when it comes to the Nintendo Switch pre-orders and things like that. But now we actually have some good translations on it to where we can discuss it more. So I'm going to go ahead and get into that here. So the Nintendo France talks big Switch pre-orders, sales goals, lack of pack-in game, and more. So this comes from a Game Cult interview with Nintendo France general manager. So let's go ahead and get right into it here. So with Nintendo Switch, Nintendo is seeing pre-orders similar to those of Wii in France. Nintendo expects to sell 800,000 units in this year, which would be the lifetime sales of the Wii U in France. This includes 95,000 units on day one, with a near 100% conversion rate with The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. I don't think that's ever happened in the history of a game that's not a pack-in. Like, in the history of any franchise or any game or any system, whatever the case is, that comes out on launch, I don't think there's ever been a non-pack-in game that has a 100% conversion ratio. Like, yo, if that happens, like, seriously, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is something else if they actually pull that off in France. Gray is currently more popular than the neon option. Nintendo thinks they will ultimately shift in the opposite direction. From a financial perspective, Nintendo just couldn't include 1-2 Switch in the package, and I talked about that in my last video, that actually putting that type of game in there would not be a good financial option for Nintendo, and they'd actually take a hit. So it's not a good option, especially when you're trying to make money and make sure shareholders are somewhat happy when they get those results. Shouldn't just give away stuff, give people an option. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild being exceptional will help the Nintendo Switch. 1-2 Switch itself is a strong proposition. While Nintendo would have loved to include a game with Nintendo Switch, it's a more expensive console than something like Wii. Nintendo realized that it needed a strong proposition with the Switch. With Wii U, being able to take a game with you around the room wasn't enough. While asymmetric gameplay was a nice idea, it was difficult to get across, and it was difficult for many third-party developers to implement. Plus, it was frustrating for users as well. This is just my personal opinion. It was frustrating to look back and forth between your screen. I didn't necessarily like that a lot when it came down to things. I thought it would be cool and it was fun for a bit, but then sometimes it got a little tiring. Plus, Nintendo didn't utilize it in like RPGs. They didn't just have enough of them out there, and it took a long time. So you guys already know all that. But yeah, definitely I agree with his thoughts there. The quick turnaround from Nintendo Switch reveal to release ultimately came down to the big developers and higher ups at Nintendo. Working with retailers and distributors wasn't an issue, though, due to the confidence these partners had in the console. Nintendo was quick to point out that Mario Kart Wii sold 3 million copies in France, while Mario Kart 8 is roughly at 350,000. Nintendo also doesn't see an issue with The Legend of Zelda, since pre-orders on Wii U aren't close to Nintendo Switch at all. Regarding 3DS, Nintendo believes users of the handheld shouldn't worry with Switch coming into the picture, which I don't understand that. Users of the handheld are going to be buying the Nintendo Switch. Nintendo also states that 3 million 3DS games as well as 750,000 systems will be sold at a minimum. So that's just their sales prediction there. So let's talk about the first thing here. Pre-orders on Wii U were not close to Switch. So there are still some people out there that are saying this information that, oh, well, the Nintendo Wii U was selling pre-orders just as much as the Nintendo Switch. Can we stop that narrative? Like, no, it wasn't. We did not see like this type of demand that's going on for the Nintendo Switch worldwide. Nintendo never said anything like that when it comes to like Wii levels with the Wii U. They never said anything like that. Oh yeah, we're seeing tremendous demand as high as the Wii. So it's not the same thing, because you have The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. You have these type of games that can really just move systems. And not only that, but then you have Mario Kart coming right after that. And I think that's why he also mentioned, hey, Mario Kart sold really well. Mario Kart 8 also sold really well. Mario Kart 8 also sold really well considering the install base in France. 800,000 units, 350,000 copies of Mario Kart 8. Plus, you have Mario Kart 8 Deluxe coming out that next month. So I think that's where they're trying to draw that parallel. And yeah, it really just goes to show that this Nintendo Switch, it is something that's different. It is definitely not the same as the Wii U. I do feel that it can sell maybe as well as the Wii at some times, just because of the hybrid nature of the system. People who like Nintendo portables and people who like Nintendo home consoles will be buying this device because it does both. If you want the ultimate Nintendo games device as far as getting all of their AAA games, all of their content going forward, you definitely want to have a Nintendo Switch. 3DS is going to get some games, don't get me wrong, but the Nintendo Switch is getting the brunt of great new games with the biggest franchises, in addition to a lot of the indie and third-party support. And Nintendo will continue supplying 3DS users with some content because it is a profitable business for them. Really cool that we were able to get more details on the matter, and let me know what you guys think about what Nintendo France had to say on the matter. I think he's spot on here. Alright guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Go ahead and hit that like button if you did like it. Lets me know you guys want more content like this going forward in the future. And subscribe to PlayerEssence for the latest news, reviews, discussions, and more. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you ninjas for the next video. Peace!